be the most beautiful day.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening for our weekly intel report for the week of April 12th, 2023. We have breaking news for you guys this evening as we come on the air here. We're getting news that North Korea has fired a missile in the direction of Japan. Japan reacting by issuing a take cover warning and evacuation orders in some northern parts of Japan. So I'll talk about that here in just a moment. We'll dive into that situation. We have a lot to cover this evening, everything from the Ukraine war to the situation with China and Taiwan in the South Pacific, as well as news about North Korea and a variety of other topics. We'll also be talking about that major U.S. intel leak and going into the details surrounding that situation as well this evening. Big shout out to Joe Blowin' Wind. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Patty Whack, thank you for stopping by. Greg Sparks, glad to have you. Go Flow, good to see you. Justin B, Kender, Ukton. Let me see here. Michelle Welch, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Mother Saki, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. So Immense says, so North Korea fired a missile at Japan. Yes, indeed, they did. We'll be talking about that here in a minute. I saw a few of you notice this. This kind of slipped under the radar amongst my channels in the past, amongst my communication channels here in the past few hours. Seems people not a lot of people have heard about this situation yet. North Korea again launching this other missile, but this time it's a little bit more severe of a situation because, again, Japan reacting with these evacuation orders, these take cover warnings. So again, we'll talk about that situation with North Korea here firing that missile in just a moment here. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. It's the best way to get the algorithm's attention. If you're not yet subscribe to the channel. It's the only way to get notified when new videos and streams like this go live. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Ring that notification bell to make sure that you are getting notified, because YouTube doesn't like to notify a lot of our viewers when we go live. Also, if you want to access our live chat on the YouTube channel, the only way to get access to that live chat and be able to talk in is to be subscribed. Pepe, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Shake the Hands, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Doom Pie, good to see you. Shameless Senpai, it's been a minute, I think. Thank you so much for tuning in. Kender, good to see you. Lil Goblin, Mike Berry. Scallywag says, I'm here. Good to see you. Good to see you. Joe Blowin' Wind, thank you so much for the gifted 5 Nemico memberships there to the community. I'll welcome our new members here. Astrid was gifted a membership. Thank you so much, Astrid, for tuning in tonight. Brain Melter 139 was gifted a membership. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Larip 13, new member. Kurt Brown is a new member, and Candy is a new member. Thank you guys so much for stopping by this evening. And again, thanks to Joe Blowin' Wind for gifting those community subs. All right, guys. So again, we're just starting off our evening of reports here. I'm kind of getting acquainted here and saying hello to everybody in the chat, and then we're going to get into our breaking news story, which is the situation with North Korea firing these missiles and Japan issuing these evacuation orders and take cover warnings. I have a few articles from a few different sources that have just been posted here in the past few moments. Also, for those that don't know, we're running a live chat poll in the community live chat on the YouTube channel tonight. This week's live chat question is, when do you think China will invade Taiwan? You have 4 different answers here, either 2023, 2024, 2025, or 2026. I guess 2026, if you're voting for 2026, that kind of includes anybody that thinks maybe it might happen after 2026. If you think it might be 2027, 2028, just go ahead and hit that 2026 option. We'll just keep that as, I should have put that option as, some point in the future or never. cover, possibly. I should have also added that as a option as well. But I'd be interested to see, out of the next 4 years, if you did think China might invade Taiwan, when do you think in the next 4 years that will be? Let us know in that live chat poll, and then towards the end of the show, when we have our question and answers, we will go ahead and end that poll off and review it. Joe Blowing Wind with the super chat, thank you so much for that. Says it's going to be great. I believe it is as well. And another 5 gifted memberships there. I'd like to welcome the new members: Michelle Welch, Scallywag07, Miss Chris, Shazzer. To all of you guys, thank you, and also make sure you thank Joe Blowing Wind over in the YouTube live chat for gifting those community memberships. Again, thank you guys so much for the support. It means a lot, and it's what allows us to continue to bring you guys this news. First off, this evening, I guess actually we have a few more things to go through here. 2 more things. If you don't know, we are live streaming on Twitch. We're dual streaming to both Twitch and YouTube. So if YouTube's not your thing, you can always hop over onto Twitch, or vice versa. If Twitch is not your thing and you're viewing us there, you can always hop over onto YouTube and come join us over here. Either way, you're welcome to view us on either platform. And to those of you that are tuning in on Twitch tonight, thank you guys so much for being here. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that follow button. For those that don't know, we do have a community Discord server. There's a link to that in the description below. If you want to join in on the community, get more involved, also get a great resource for up-to-date news and intel on what's going on in the world, check out our Discord community server. There's a link to that in the description below. Without further ado here, I'm going to switch over to our main pointer screen here so I can take you guys through some of these articles here. Get that Ukrainian anthem out of the way there. So I did play, I know it was requested by the community earlier, I played the Ukrainian national anthem at the beginning of the stream. I think it might have been the same version I had when I started streaming back last year when the war started. So we'll see if it gets flagged by YouTube as a copyright strike. We'll find out later. But I've been looking for a version of the Ukrainian national anthem that is not under any type of copyright. So we'll see if this one does. Speedy Squirrel, thank you so much for the super chat there. Says, for the taco fund, thank you so much for the taco fund there, Speedy Squirrel. I will make sure to put it to good use. By the way, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, and I hope you're doing well this evening. So again, big news tonight. North Korea fires this missile. Not the first time they've done this. However, it is kind of a little bit more of a serious situation tonight, as Japan has prompted alert. They've issued evacuation orders and take cover orders in some areas of Japan here. It says North Korea fired a ballistic missile on Thursday. This is coming from Reuters, by the way. South Korea and Japan said, prompting an alert for residents in Japan's northern island of Hokkaido to take cover. Japanese authorities later retracted the alert, saying an emergency warning system had made an erroneous prediction the missile would fall near the island. Japan's Coast Guard said the projectile that appeared to be the missile had fallen in the sea to the east of North Korea. So again, another missile launch here, another test, so to speak, by North Korea. Again, this one here causing a little bit of a stir in Japan as those warnings were issued there. Again, what again later was determined to be due to error, but however, it's nonetheless definitely causing a panic there, probably by Japanese citizens and stuff. Hearing that there's this missile being launched from North Korea, no doubt that would cause concern to anyone. Joe Blown Wind, again, thank you for the super chat. Says, for the taco fund, thank you so much, guys. That taco fund is exponentially increasing. We will have plenty of tacos to go around here at some point in the future. I had another article here from The Guardian. Again, it's just saying North Korean missile launch sparks evacuation order in Japan. Local authorities issued the warning on the North Island of Hokkaido shortly after the launch of a suspected ballistic missile from the Korean peninsula. I have some other news from North Korea here that's kind of relevant, so I guess I'll go through our North Korea items this evening. I had mentioned this last week, I believe. I might have touched on it briefly, but there had been some communication shortcomings here between South Korea and North Korea. We have a post here. I've been monitoring this situation for the past few days now, but again, this hit mainstream news earlier today and yesterday that it was reported that North Korea has ignored the South Korean phone calls for 5 days in a row, likely protesting those U.S. military drills that took place there near the Korean Peninsula there on the South Korean side. North Korea has cut off regular communications with its southern counterpart for the 5th day in a row. South Korean government officials announced Friday that its northern neighbor had failed to respond via the two-way military liaison line normally used twice a day. Since then, the North Korean government has continued to refuse using the phone system, likely in protest of joint military drills between the U.S., South Korea, and Japan. Quote here, the government expresses strong regret over the North's unilateral and irresponsible attitude. We strongly warn that this will only lead to the North to isolate itself and face more difficult situations. Kwon Young-se, South Korea's unification minister, said in a statement on Tuesday. Kim Jong-un orders North Korea to prepare, quote, offensive nuclear capabilities. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ordered his military to hasten, quote, practical and offensive war capabilities due to the ever-worsening security on the Korean Peninsula in the face of U.S.-South Korea military exercises. Mr. Kim held a high-level meeting with ruling Workers' Party's Central Military Commission and commanding officers of the Korean People's Army on Monday. The North Korean leader was pictured pointing to areas on a blurred map that appeared to be of South Korea as he reviewed, quote, frontline attack operation plans as well as various combat documents, state media has reported. So no doubt I've gotten the vibe, so to speak here, the past few weeks, even the past few months here, that China and North Korea is, along with some Middle Eastern countries, have kind of gotten, so to speak, the war fever, so to speak, over the past few months here. We've seen China continuously getting more and more aggressive towards Taiwan. We see North Korea making more and more provocations here. I believe they see what Russia is doing in Ukraine. I know a lot of us early on, thought that it would be kind of a good warning to North Korea and China and bad actor states such as them, kind of a warning here, not to make the mistakes that Russia has made by invading Ukraine. However, I believe in some cases it's just bolstered their desire here to carry out, their goals, carry out their plans here, so to speak, especially, with China, again, getting continuously more aggressive with Taiwan, North Korea, again, getting continuously more aggressive towards South Korea and the West. I believe they've kind of come to this understanding that, the U.S. is stretched pretty stretched pretty thin, I should say, between the situation happening in Ukraine with Russia, the situation happening, again, in the South Pacific with China and Taiwan, and even our own domestic issues here. And it's not just the U.S., but the combined West, speaking to European countries here, the UK, and, of course, the United States. An article here which speaks to that, and it's a video here from Wall Street Journal, which I'll play for you guys really quick. It talks about North Korea, Iran, and China's connections to Russia's war machine. It talks a little bit about the logistical side of things, the supply chain side of things as well. So I'm going to show you guys that video again by the Wall Street Journal here. Let's take a look.
As heavy combat between Russia and Ukraine continues in eastern Ukraine, supplies on both sides are running low. So far in the war, countries around the world have been involved in providing equipment. The red on this map shows the nations that have pledged weapons to support Kyiv, and the blue shows the countries that have assisted Moscow, according to Western intelligence. Aid for Ukraine has been widely publicized, while Russia's deals have been largely shrouded in secrecy.
Again, I mentioned this last week, and I'll go ahead and mention it again. There's this new, kind of very similar to what we saw in World War II. There's this new axis forming here between Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and some of their other partner countries. And that's what we're starting to see come to fruition here. And that's what I'm talking about. When I say things that like China and North Korea have been what's the word I'm looking for here? Have been sort of kind of egged on, by Russia's war in Ukraine. Their commitment to doing things like invading Taiwan. With North Korea, it's their nuclear program and their aggression towards South Korea and the U.S. Again, it's been kind of bolstered by the war in Ukraine here. These new partnerships are being formed. Supply chains are being formed. Some of these countries are vowing to support each other's war efforts, support each other's economies, etc. So again, there's this new axis being formed here that we're seeing, again, come to fruition.
Satellite images, on-the-ground footage, and customs documents analyzed by the Wall Street Journal tell us more about the nations supporting Russia's war machine. North Korea is one nation that has been supplying weapons to Russian fighters, according to the Biden administration. US intelligence said the mercenary force Wagner has received infantry rockets and missiles from the country. The White House released satellite images that it said shows 5 Russian rail cars participating in the weapons transfer in a return trip from Khasan in Russia to Tumangang in North Korea. This image also shows a nearby open-air storage unit, which military analysts said facilitated the delivery. In response to the US, in November, North Korea denied supplying weapons to Russia and said it had no plans to do so. Russia's embassy in Washington didn't respond to a request for comment. Deliveries of ammunition are crucial for Russia to continue its intensive fighting, as the war largely becomes one of attrition. But in a sign that stocks are running low, Russia has launched fewer shells in recent weeks than last year. Military analysts estimate that Moscow's forces are now firing 10,000 shells a day, down from 20,000 to 30,000 last summer. That's still well above Ukraine, which fires an estimated 3,000 a day and is also struggling with low stockpiles. Russia is also receiving support from Iran. Ukrainian officials say Moscow has used hundreds of Iranian drones to hit civilian and military targets. Iran has acknowledged publicly that it has supplied drones to Russia. Military analysts say drones consistent with Iranian self-destructive unmanned aerial vehicles can be seen in these videos of strikes in Kyiv. Moscow and Tehran are also moving to build a new factory in Russia that could make at least 6,000 Iranian-designed drones in the coming years. Drone attacks have been a key tactic used by both Russia and Ukraine in the war. Ukraine's military has posted videos like this one that it said showed strikes on Russian targets using Turkish-made drones. And then there's China. Both the US and China say Beijing hasn't provided weapons to Russia, but Russian customs records provided to the Wall Street Journal in February by the Center for Advanced Defense Studies, a Washington-based nonprofit, show that China has indirectly supported Moscow's war efforts. The records show that Chinese state-owned companies provided Russian government-owned defense firms with navigation equipment, jamming technology, and jet fighter parts. Russia's embassy in Washington didn't respond to a request for comment. A month later, Chinese leader Xi Jinping traveled to Moscow for a multi-day summit, deepening economic ties between the two nations. US officials say China is also considering supplying artillery and drones to Russia. China has denied it is considering such action and has, in turn, pointed a finger at the US and its allies for fueling the conflicts by providing Ukraine with weapons. Russia is gathering its forces as it attempts to break Ukrainian defenses across the eastern Donetsk region. Looking to its allies could help Moscow as Kyiv begins to receive a large cache of Western-made heavy weapons. As the war continues, outside partnerships could prove to be vital as both Russia and Ukraine prepare for fighting to intensify in the coming weeks.
So there you have it. And again, speaking to what they said there about China denying these claims like that, you're going to see that as a common pattern by a lot of these countries that are supporting Russia or vice versa, supporting each other. They're going to play that blame game kind of. They're going to use denial as one of their tools, again, to further their own narratives, to further their own plans. Now, as I said before, this is all kind of about that new axis forming here, again, between mainly Russia, China, and Iran, but also you have North Korea in there, Belarus. You have a lot of the other countries that are allied with, again, this axis here, again, which is now what we're seeing come to fruition. Again, this was another article here about that evacuation order issued in Japan. Again, for those that are just tuning in, we're just getting started with our main headlines here this evening. We had the breaking news that there was a North Korean missile launch that was kind of stirring up some fears here in northern Japan. They issued a evacuation order as well as a take cover order. It was later reported that that missile did fall into the sea off the coast of northern Japan. We're now going to go ahead and I'm going to go through our main Ukraine headlines for this evening. We're going to switch over to our map here. It shows the front line of Ukraine. On your screen here, you can see, again, the eastern front along Ukraine, as well as the southern front here. You have the southern and eastern fronts of the war there. We'll go ahead here and we will get zoomed in on Bakhmut, which again is that city here in eastern Ukraine, which is continuing to be contested over between the Russians, the Wagner, and of course the Ukrainian defenders. Our primary headlines for this evening, we have quite a lot of news that has come out of Ukraine this week. Of course, a lot of it related to that U.S. intelligence leak, which I will go into more depth about later this evening. Vladimir Zelensky came out with a big statement here Wednesday. He's urged international leaders to act after a disturbing video emerged on Wednesday of Russian soldiers apparently beheading a Ukrainian prisoner of war lying on the ground. I believe the actual video was released a few days prior, and it had been floating around on different both Russian Telegram channels and some other sources here on the web. Ukraine's president said the world cannot ignore, quote, the evil footage, which has not been verified by reporters yet as of this time. However, I've seen the video. I don't recommend anybody goes and watches the video. It is quite gruesome. Very much akin to the beheading videos we saw posted by groups like ISIS years ago. Basically just terrorist activity. There's really no other way to put it. Terroristic activity, evil footage, as President Zelensky called it there. But again, he's urging international leaders to act after that disturbing video emerged on Wednesday, amongst other war crimes, which have occurred here since the start of the war last year. Belarus has extradited a Russian man who was separated from his daughter and sentenced to 2 years in prison after she drew anti-war pictures at school. Alexei Moskalov, a 54-year-old single parent from the town of Yefremov, 150 miles south of Moscow, fled house arrest last month, hours before a court handed him a 2-year sentence for discrediting the Russian army. Meanwhile, the European Union has pledged to hold those responsible for war crimes in Ukraine to account, a spokesperson has said. Well, the UN said it was, quote, appalled by the particularly gruesome videos that have been circulating on social media. Again, not just that beheading video that I was speaking about moments ago, but there are many others. The World Bank said on Wednesday it would finance $200 million to help fix Ukraine's energy and heating infrastructure. No doubt they could use every penny they can get to repair a lot of that infrastructure that has been torn apart by Russia. With partners and others to provide another $300 million as the project continues to expand. Of course, it will continue to expand as long as the war carries on in Ukraine. The UK government has imposed sanctions on, quote, financial fixers who have allegedly helped Russian oligarchs Roman Abramovich and Alisher Uzmanov hide their assets. Meanwhile, Britain is ready to provide an extra $500 million loan of loan guarantees to Ukraine, taking the total this year to about $1 billion US. British Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt said on Wednesday in a report. Hunt said the British loan guarantees had been important to underwrite a broader $15.6 billion IMF four-year package of support, which we've spoken about a few times here on the show. Again, no doubt they could use all the help they can get there in Ukraine to start to rebuild, to continue to rebuild. Again, from the damage that has been caused by the Russian military and is continuing to be caused by the Russian military. The U.S. also imposed sanctions on more than 120 individuals and entities around the world over their ties to Russia's war in Ukraine. The sanctions targeted people and entities across more than 20 countries and jurisdictions. Russia has hit 333 Canadian officials and public figures with sanctions of its own in what said it was what was a tit-for-tat move, again, in response to Canada's sanctions against Moscow and support for Ukraine. Ukraine's military has again rejected claims by Russia that Russian troops have captured more than 80% of the embattled city of Bakhmut. Serhiy Chervayati, a spokesperson for the Eastern Military Command, insisted on Wednesday that Ukrainian forces controlled considerably more than 20% in the east. So again, the Ukrainians saying that they control quite a bit of Bakhmut still to this day, that the Russians don't hold that territory in completion at this time. Russia's defense ministry has claimed its forces struck Ukrainian army reserves attempting to break through to Bakhmut. It also claimed that fighters from Russia's private Wagner mercenary group had captured 3 more blocks in their attempt to seize control of the city. The claims were not verified, still have not been verified by reporters at this time, but we'll continue to bring you more information on that as we get it. Russia has tightened its conscription law, including introducing electronic military draft papers before a widely anticipated Ukrainian counteroffensive in the coming weeks. The lower and upper houses of parliament rushed through legislation that will make it significantly harder for Russians to dodge the draft, while automatically banning registered conscripts from leaving the country. MLT says, glad to see you back on. I appreciate all the reporting you did during the initial invasion of Ukraine. Well, MLT, we've been back on for quite some time, at least for past, I want to say at least 4 or 5 months. Or no, we came back New Year's, so it's been 4 months. 4 months. So we've been back since New Year's of this year. For those that don't know, we do have quite a bit of content we've been releasing over on the YouTube channel. So if you want to get caught up on what's been going on, not just in the war in Ukraine, but kind of on a more broader scale across the globe, go ahead over to our YouTube channel and check out some of the content we've been putting out over the past few months here. MLT, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Andy Bagshaw, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. GoFlow, glad to see you. Joe Blow and Wind gifted another 10 community memberships. Joe Blow and Wind is on fire tonight. He's blowing wind tonight, that is for sure. Congratulations to our new members, GoFlow, Anarchy Gaming, good to see you tonight. Curious Paul, good to see you. Sam Jenkinson, good to see you. Dino Linho Canal Gas, that is a mouthful there. Glad to have you on as a member. Acid Drain, good to see you. Mr. Plus the Ukraine, good to see you as well. Ryan C, Night Sky Cry, Slayer Cian, thank you so much to everybody that is a new member. Make sure you guys thank Joe Blow and Wind for gifting excuse me, those community subs to you guys over on the YouTube live chat. Again, thank you guys so much for the support. It means a lot. Now I have to figure out where I was here in my list of reports. Okay, so we were talking about the conscription law there. Again, they're kind of making it harder for Russians to dodge the draft. I believe this is in preparation for a new wave of call-ups here to military service in Russia. So I think they're going to issue a new draft, a new mobilization, so to speak, here in the coming weeks and months. My money is on it because, again, with this with the spring offensive and going into summer, they're going to need to start training in new troops for mid to late summer, even into the fall. So again, I could definitely see us seeing a new wave of mobilization coming in the coming weeks here. Russia installed authorities in annexed Crimea and the city of Sevastopol have canceled traditional military parades to celebrate Victory Day and May Day, the Russian appointed leader of Crimea has said, citing security reasons. Again, they're worried about partisan actors, Ukrainian saboteurs as well, going in there and conducting attacks possibly on those military parades. Again, those military parades in those areas no doubt would contain actual military equipment and even possibly service members of the Russian military, possibly even some mercenary forces. Could be possible. So again, they're worried about attacks coming from Ukraine on those military parades. So that is why they are canceling those. Serbia has agreed to supply arms to Kyiv, or has sent them already, according to a classified Pentagon document. Serbia is one of the only countries in Europe that has refused to sanction Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. So this is kind of an interesting development here. Again, this is one of those pieces of data that came from these leaked Pentagon documents, which I will talk about more later in the show this evening. Yumi asks a good question, and usually I would save these for the Q&A towards the end, but I figured I'd try my best tonight to answer some sporadic questions as I'm reading off articles for you guys. Yumi asks, do you think China will actually invade Taiwan someday or never do it? I believe we could see an invasion of Taiwan by China sooner rather than later. Sooner rather than later. I wouldn't go so far as to say when exactly that will happen, but I would say it's not a question of if China will do it, but when they will attempt to do it. Press Alpha says, Nemico, I have arrived. Thank you so much, Press Alpha, for tuning in this evening. Glad to have you. Thank you so much for being here with us. Adam Edwards, thank you so much for tuning in tonight as well. In further news here, South Korea has reportedly agreed to lend the U.S. 500,000 rounds of artillery as Seoul attempts to minimize the possibility that the ammunition could end up in Ukraine, a move that could spark domestic criticism of President Yoon Suk Yeol. Again, so South Korea has reportedly agreed to, quote, lend the U.S. 500,000 rounds of artillery. No doubt that artillery will then end up in Ukraine. Again, so kind of confused there. Like this, so this report. I have a couple different versions of this report that I got. They're both worded a little bit differently, but what I've deduced is they've agreed to lend this 500,000 rounds of artillery to the U.S. The U.S. can basically do whatever they want with it, and then it'll be up to the U.S. to return, again, that 500,000 rounds of artillery to South Korea. Meanwhile, South Africa has said that an international arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin over the Ukraine war was a, quote, spanner in the works before a BRICS summit in the country in August. The Russian president is due to attend a summit of BRICS countries, but the host nation is a member of the International Criminal Court and would be expected to make the arrest if Putin steps foot in the country. Meanwhile, the German government is very worried about the jailed Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny's worsening health condition, a government spokesperson has said. Navalny's spokesperson on Tuesday said he had lost 8 kilograms in just 16 days while in solitary confinement, and that he was not receiving any treatment or adequate medical treatment, or treatment in general. He's not in very good he's not being held in good conditions at this time. And so again, and also not receiving adequate medical treatment for his ailment. So next up here, we're going to move into some of our primary headlines here. So I'm going to head on over to our main screen here so I can show you guys a little bit closer what we got to show you here. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about these leaked Pentagon documents, which suggest the U.S. is pessimistic that Ukraine can quickly end the war against Russia. Amongst other things, quite a bit of data that came out of this leak. So we're going to talk about that here in the next few minutes. Doug Wilson says, now go. Thank you so much, Doug, for tuning in this evening. Kej, thank you so much for tuning in tonight as well. If you guys haven't already, we've got about 106 of you tuning in right now on YouTube. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Schnippy in the Discord says, man, that intro is pumping it up. Discord crowd is here too, Omnissiah. Thank you so much, Schnippy, for being with us this evening. To everybody that's hanging out with us from over on the Discord, thank you guys for being here. So again, for those of you that don't know, this mysterious leaked Pentagon the documents, not just one document, but many, hit the news this week. Quite a big story here. There's a lot to unpack, so we're going to go through it, one piece at a time here. Let's just take a drink here really quickly. Alrighty. Okay, so the highly classified leaked Pentagon documents posted to social media offer a, quote, pessimistic U.S. viewpoint. This is coming from CNN about the state of the war in Ukraine, highlighting weaknesses in Ukraine's weaponry and air defenses and predicting a stalemate in the war for months to come. The documents, which appear to date from February and March, detail many of Ukraine's perceived military shortfalls as key prepares for a spring counteroffensive against Russia. I know we've all been talking about this spring counteroffensive, what feels like forever now. Since last fall, we were talking about this spring counteroffensive. We are just coming up on that here. It's most likely going to be starting within the next month or so here, as that ground begins to dry out, as the snows melt and the ground begins to dry out there in Ukraine. Several of the classified documents warn that Ukraine's medium-range air defenses to protect frontline troops will be, quote, completely reduced by May 23, suggesting Russia could soon have aerial superiority and Ukraine could lose the ability to amass ground forces in a counteroffensive. No doubt we will see the fighting kick off sometime early to mid-May. The documents also underscore lingering problems with Russia's own military offensive, predicting the result will be a stalemate between the two sides of for the foreseeable future. Quote, Russia's grinding campaign of attrition in the Donbass region is likely heading towards a stalemate, thwarting Moscow's goal to capture the entire region in 2023, states one of the classified documents. Officials familiar with the situation tell CNN the documents appear to be part of a daily intelligence briefing deck prepared for the Pentagon's senior leaders, including Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley. So again, the race has been on the past few days here to find out who leaked these documents within the U.S. government, and again, to try to mitigate the possibility of another leak happening again. In an article here from The Hill, it says the U.S. intelligence leak deals severe blow to Ukraine war effort. The largest U.S. military leak in a decade is a serious blow to Ukraine's war effort, creating an intelligence threat for that country's forces ahead of an expected counteroffensive this spring. Classified documents leaked on social media after extensive details about munitions, training, and air defense systems at a critical point in the fight. The Pentagon is still reviewing the validity of the documents. I know a lot of reports have been made that the documents were doctored, so to speak, that they had been changed, and that information information had been changed on those documents. Again, a lot of that has not been confirmed yet. We don't know what information is true and what information is, misinformation. Dozens of classified U.S. and NATO documents, some labeled, quote, top secret, began leaking in more obscure parts of the internet in January before spilling over to Twitter and Telegram and picking up attention last week. While they only provide a status of the conflict up to March, the material does reveal insight into Ukraine's military capabilities, including battalion sizes, training on advanced weaponry, and deployment of heavy combat vehicles such as those Leopard 2 tanks we talked about so much on the stream. I believe that was last month or the month before when the Leopard tanks were all over the news. They also give a view into Kyiv's shortcomings, with at least one document describing how the country could soon run out of munitions for Soviet-era anti-air missile systems, exposing a potential vulnerability in Ukraine's air defense systems. Kurt Volker, a distinguished fellow with the Center for European Policy Analysis, said the leak is worrying because it gives the world, quote, a snapshot of U.S. assessments and judgments on the war in Ukraine. It is signaling to Ukrainians, to Russians, to others, here is what we're thinking, Volker said, and it may give some clues as to the quality of our information, where we're getting it from, which will cause the people we're collecting on to shut that down. Perhaps the most alarming leak contains information on the Ukrainian air defenses. One document dated in February says missiles for the S-300 system, which again have come to know and love very much here on this stream as we watched those S-300 air defense systems go to work in the beginning of the war defending the country, will soon run out by May. While the SA-11 Gadfly missile system will be depleted by the end of March, both systems make up 89% of Ukraine's air defenses, according to NATO, and are crucial in fending off frequent Russian missile strikes. Russian military bloggers have already widely spread the leaked documents, including those estimating how many air defense systems and aircraft such as fighter jets are deployed by Ukraine. In an article here from the Washington Post, I can read you guys the first little bit of it here. No Russia-Ukraine peace talks expected this year, as that U.S. intel leak shows. The war is expected to spill into 2024, with neither side notching victory and both refusing to negotiate, U.S. intelligence officials surmise. The grinding war between Ukraine and Russia is expected to bleed into 2024, with neither side securing victory, yet both refusing to negotiate an end to the conflict, according to a Defense Intelligence Agency assessment that is among the highly sensitive U.S. government materials leaked online and obtained by the Washington Post. The analysis concludes that even if Ukraine recaptures significant amounts of territory and inflicts unsustainable losses on Russian forces, an outcome U.S. intelligence finds unlikely, the nation's gains would not lead to peace talks. Negotiations to end the conflict are unlikely during 2023 and in all considered scenarios, says the document, which has not been disclosed previously. The assessment, based on close U.S. scrutiny of each side's troop counts, weaponry, and equipment, could galvanize the war's critics, who have called on major powers such as the United States and China to push for Kyiv and Moscow to reach a settlement and end a conflict that has displaced millions and left hundreds of thousands of dead or wounded. Meanwhile, here, U.S. sanctions over 120 people and entities supporting Russia's invasion as it happened here. This is from The Guardian. Kesh asks, how much of the documents do you think were factual stuff? That's really hard to tell. I would expect at least maybe 50 to 75%. The other 25% of facts being manufactured and misinformation. That's possible, but I don't have enough information to make a conclusive assessment of that situation. So again, here it says the U.S. has also imposed sanctions on more than 120 individuals and entities around the world over their ties to Russia's war in Ukraine. This is another round of sanctions, by the way, because this is not the first. The sanctions targeted people and entities across more than 20 countries and jurisdictions, including a private military company, a China-based firm, and entities linked to Russia's state-owned nuclear energy company, Rosatom. In an article from AP News, let's get this out of the way here, Ukraine's outrage grows over that video seeming to show that beheading, which I spoke about earlier today. I'll read you a little bit from this article here from AP News. Ukraine launched an investigation Wednesday into a gruesome video that purportedly showed the beheading of a Ukrainian soldier in the latest accusation of atrocities said to have been committed by Russia since it invaded in February 2022. The video spread quickly online and drew outrage from officials in Kyiv, including President Vladimir Zelensky, as well as international organizations. The Kremlin called the footage, quote, horrible, but said it needed to be verified. The Associated Press was not able to independently verify the authenticity of the video or the circumstances of where and when it was shot. The AP is not distributing the video or using frame grabs due to the extremely graphic nature, of course. It's some more news about that the intel leak there from the Ukraine war. The leak shows Western special forces are in fact on the ground in Ukraine, something that we've known was fact basically since the war started. The UK is among a number of countries with military special forces operating inside Ukraine, according to one of dozens of leaked documents from that U.S. intel leak that occurred earlier this week. It confirms what has been the subject of quiet speculation for over a year. The leaked files, some marked, quote, top secret, paint a detailed picture of the war in Ukraine, including sensitive details of Ukraine's preparations for a spring counteroffensive. The U.S. government says it's investigating the source of the leak, as I mentioned earlier. According to the document dated 23rd of March, the UK has the largest contingent of special forces in Ukraine at 50, followed by the fellow NATO states Latvia 17, France 15, the US has 14, and the Netherlands has 1. So the UK has 50 contingent of special forces. So I believe that's personnel that are on the ground in Ukraine there. The US has about 14 that are on the ground in Ukraine. The document, however, does not say where the forces are located or what they are doing there, of course. The numbers of personnel may be small and will doubtless fluctuate, but the special forces are their very nature highly effective. The presence in Ukraine is likely to be seized upon by Moscow, which has in recent months argued that it is not just confronting Ukraine, but NATO as well. No doubt this will feed into that very narrative which they have been building. I have an article here from The Guardian, which talks about drone pilots here in Ukraine. It says, crouching in a freezing basement or risking it all on top of a 9-story building, the drone squads in the war zone of Bakhmut are ubiquitous. Some are forced to lurk a few hundred meters from or even on the front line. Without them, Ukraine's efforts to hold on to the embattled city would be much harder and perhaps impossible. But the concern for Ukraine, according to 3 frontline drone operators deployed in the city over the winter, is that the Russians are close to countering the most popular models in operation, those made by the Chinese manufacturer DJI. They're adept and they are manufacturing these special jamming systems, said Yaroslav, who is 31 years of age. Quote here, so actually I believe like in 3-4 months, DJI will not be usable, the drone specialist said. It means a scramble has been going on to look for replacements, prompting countless Ukrainian initiatives, and probably the most dynamic aspect of the near 14-month war. A conflict in which drones have so far largely helped defenders. Mostly, they're used to dial in those artillery strikes by Ukrainian defenders. It's the only way that they've been able to do as much damage. So the Ukrainians, they're launching about 3,000 artillery shells a day. The Russians, they launch about 10,000 artillery shells per day. Okay, the only reason the Ukrainians are able to make that 3,000 a day effective, it's because of their drone spotters. Their drone teams are what guide in those shells to target. It's what makes their artillery teams extremely effective. Speaking of which, one of those 3,000 artillery shells, which is going to be fired one of these days, is going to be one of our artillery shells from here on the YouTube channel, Nemico Network. And I just wanted to give everybody a status update on our Sign My Rocket fundraiser. I know some people were asking about it again today. So we got an update back from them, and it looks like our artillery shell has been sent to the front line. They're going to be getting a video of it, and it's currently awaiting for processing. So we should be getting that back to you soon, hopefully before next week's report. I'll have that video for you guys, and we'll be able to add that to our intro. I'll also be uploading it as a standalone video over on the YouTube channel. An article here about China says a military exercise suggests China is getting ready to launch a war against Taiwan, the island's foreign minister tells CNN. It says one day after China simulated joint precision strikes on Taiwan during military exercises around the island, Taiwan's foreign minister Joseph Wu condemned Beijing's actions in an exclusive interview with CNN and warned that, quote, they seem to be trying to get ready to launch a war against Taiwan. A quote here, look at the military exercises and look at their rhetoric. They seem to be trying to get ready to launch a war against Taiwan, Wu said. So for those that don't know, there's been some massive Chinese military drills and exercises off of the coasts of Taiwan. They practiced encircling the island. They've been practicing air drills. All sorts of stuff has been going on the past 3 to 4 days around Taiwan. It's been really ramped up, the tensions there. And so not only that, but on the other side of the coin, you have the U.S. and Philippines. In the Philippines, they're conducting exercises there, and so there's this large increase in tensions here in the South Pacific. The Taiwanese government looks at Chinese military threat as something that cannot be accepted, and we condemn it. Asked if Taiwan has any sense of the timing of potential Chinese military action, given U.S. intelligence assessments that Xi, the president of China, has instructed his military to be prepared by 2027, we express confidence in Taiwanese preparations. Chinese leaders will think twice before they decide to use force against Taiwan, and no matter whether it's in 2025 or 2027 or beyond, Taiwan simply needs to get ready, he said. The exercises appeared to mark the first time the Chinese Navy has simulated strikes by aircraft carrier-based warplanes on Taiwan. Now, I mentioned this in many past broadcasts, and I'll mention it again. I believe if China is going to invade Taiwan, they're probably going to do it sooner rather than later. Again, as Taiwan is flooded with more weapon systems, as the Taiwanese military prepares, as the U.S. military continues to prepare, as Japan continues to prepare for this, the more prepared that they get, the harder of a time China will have taking the island. I believe China knows this, and that's why they're conducting these exercises now. I believe that's why they're conducting this forced posture now, right, instead of later. It's the reason why they're doing the posturing, they're doing the rhetoric, they're getting not only their own people prepared for this, their military prepared for this, but they're even kind of prepping the international stage for this possibility as well. No doubt, issuing these very stark warnings, that something must change here. Otherwise, they're going to go ahead with this invasion of Taiwan. Special Force Horse says, in my opinion, China will do it sooner than later. Yeah, and I agree with that. So, and again, there's many different reasons why they would do it sooner rather than later. And there's a lot of evidence that's pointing towards the fact that they might be getting ready to do it sooner rather than later. Just the movements we've seen by their military, the movements we've seen by their navy, their geopolitical actions they've taken over the past few months. So we've seen a lot of that activity that points in the direction that China is in fact gearing up for this war with Taiwan, more so in the past week than I've seen in quite some time. This past week has been very eventful in the South Pacific, that is without doubt. From AP News here, another article saying China says Taiwan encirclement drills are a serious warning. Says here recent Chinese air drills and sea drills simulating an encirclement of Taiwan were intended as a serious warning to pro-independence politicians on self-governing island and their foreign supporters, China said Wednesday, as signs emerged that Beijing will take further action. The 3 days of large-scale air and sea exercises named Joint Sword that ended Monday were a response to Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen's meeting with U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in California last week during a transit visit to the U.S. China had warned of serious consequences if the meeting went ahead. Although China said the exercises are over, it has kept up military pressure against Taiwan in the past few days and signaled it will do more. Taiwan's Ministry of Transportation said Wednesday it had received a notice from China's Civil Aviation Administration that it would set up a control zone to, quote, restrict flights in parts of northern Taiwan for April 16th to 18th, in effect setting up an area where flights would not be allowed to go. So basically creating a no-fly zone. A quote here saying, on their own, they set up a warning area to control flights within our country's jurisdictions, Taipei Aviation Information Region, using the excuse of aerospace activities, the Taiwan statement said. So let me set the stage here for you guys. Let me paint the picture a bit more for you here. So not only do we have the situation which has occurred with the U.S. and China last month, with the spy balloons and Secretary of State Antony Blinken canceling his big political trip to Taiwan. Sorry, not to Taiwan, but canceling his trip to China. Okay. Follow that, all of the spy balloon controversy, follow that up with U.S. Taiwanese drills. Okay, U.S. drills and movements in the South Pacific. You have with Philippines as well. And then you have U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who was originally planning to head to Taiwan to have that meeting with the Taiwanese president in Taiwan. However, I believe they decided to have it in California as a way to reduce tensions. No doubt either way, though, China was going to react to this, and they did indeed do that by launching these massive drills, probably the largest drills that we've seen in recent years around Taiwan. Again, they were practicing naval blockading, aerial blockading, again, kind of cutting off the island. And also, not to mention, 2 weeks ago we had the incident where China – it was claimed that China had cut some undersea communications cables with some of the outlying islands around Taiwan, basically cutting off the internet, which could have also been an exercise move, again, to practice in the event that if they do invade the country, they will most likely start by hitting things like those communication cables and satellite, as well as other communications infrastructure. So again, it says here, on their own, they've set up a warning area to control flights within our country's jurisdiction, Taipei's Aviation Information Region, using the excuse of aerospace activities, the Taiwan statement had said. So in an article here from our favorite news agency, I know we all have our favorite news agencies, CNN and Fox News. Those are all our two big favorites here. Of course, I'm being sarcastic here with that, guys. But of course, you know, I don't exclude anything here. We look at all sources here on this channel, from all sides, from all across all party lines. We take a look at every single news source here, and look at them objectively and with a critical mind, of course. With critical thinking. It says here, what might happen next? How a Chinese invasion of Taiwan could impact the United States. It says a Chinese blockade of Taiwan could reverberate globally, sparking market shocks. But U.S. politicians say protecting the island is a war worth fighting, it says. The war in Ukraine is the war you've heard about the most over the past year. A war over Taiwan is the war you may hear about next. The conflict in Ukraine certainly carries geopolitical implications. There are issues of grain for Western Europe, oil from Russia, and there's speculation over possible Russian designs on locales besides Ukraine. Cough, cough, Moldova, cough, cough, a lot of the other Baltic states as well. Baltic nations. But a battle over Taiwan could make Ukraine appear like a neighborhood skirmish. It would all start with a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Everybody thinks it's going to happen, said Rep. Carlos Gimenez, a Republican, Florida, on Fox. The only difference of opinion is when it's going to happen. Gimenez notes that many Chinese and intelligence analysts believe war comes by W. But Gimenez is skeptical of that hypothesis. Quote, I think it's going to be earlier than that, said Gimenez. So again, they're talking about basically that it's China, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it sooner rather than naval. Again, sooner rather than later. Again, it's not a question of when, or sorry, not a question of if, but when. In some news that a lot of people wanted me to talk about this week, I got an article here from the New York Times. From the red carpet to doghouse, Macron, French president, returns from China to Allied dismay. Criticism of the French president's performance in Beijing has been scathing among some allies who saw him as cozying up to Beijing. Paris, President Emmanuel Macron landed in China to a red carpet reception and all the pomp of a state visit, a 3-day tour little short of a love fest that he clearly hoped would further his ambitions for France to sit at the table of the great powers in a world changed by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Beijing's emergence as an arbiter of global conflict. But Macron's reception on returning to Europe has been chilly. Already embattled at home, facing huge weekly protests in the streets, he now finds himself exonerated abroad for what has been criticized as naivete, first with President Vladimir V. Putin of Russia, whom he failed to dissuade from the war after an intense courtship, and now with China's President Xi Jinping, who wants to drive a wedge between Europe and the United States and has warned of American, quote, containment. Meanwhile, for the Wall Street Journal here, China eyes commercial ships in a move to intimidate Taiwan. An inspection flotilla could be the first step in a blockade of the island. The world needs to be ready. Again, they're talking about this no-fly zone in and around of Taiwan. Again, this is kind of similar. This is instead kind of a blockade, a naval blockade, or what could be the start of a naval blockade. Basically, what they're calling an inspection flotilla in and around Taiwan. Again, Wall Street Journal is paywalled here, so I'll only be able to read you the intro of the article here, but it says, when House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen met in California last week, Beijing expressed its displeasure. It did so by sending patrol vessels to Taiwan Strait, where Chinese authorities said the vessel might conduct inspections. China could use such inspections to block this vital trade artery. Friendly navies should signal support for Taiwan's navy. Governments should create an early warning system for the shipping world so vessels take alternate routes. And again, circling back around to that main article this evening, which has made breaking news tonight. Again, North Korea launched that missile off the coast of Japan. I talked about that at the beginning of the show. That about sums up our primary headlines for this evening. We won't be going into our community aggregated news posts this evening, as I have to keep tonight's report short. And we won't be talking about our open source intelligence tools tonight. I was just coming to you guys to talk about the main headlines this evening and give a little bit of insight into what's kind of going on this week, as there is a lot of information. Next week, we're going to be doing our report. We're going to be doing less main headlines. In fact, we might only do a few main headlines. We're going to be doing a main focus next week, kind of a deep dive into all of our community aggregated news, which has been posted over on the Situation Room. So for those of you guys that like to post in the Situation Room over on the Discord server, this is your week. Go ahead, start posting your news, post your reports, go out there, find the intel, get it posted in the Situation Room, because next week we're going to be doing an open source intelligence deep dive into the global security situation. We'll probably only cover our main, very important topics in our main headlines for next week. We'll be doing our main majority of reporting will be all of our community aggregated reports from our Situation Room, and we'll also be diving into open source intelligence tools and kind of going through some of the insights which we can gain from some of those tools. Again, with all the recent activity which has been going on lately. 777 Militia, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. By the way, I'm starting my Q&A, guys, so if you have any questions or answers, questions or comments you want me to read off, go ahead, post them in the live chat now. Also, if you haven't already, cast your vote in tonight's live chat poll over on the YouTube live chat. We'll end that poll off here in just a few moments, and we'll talk about those results. So go make sure to vote over there. 777 Militia, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Says, you've been the most genuine person within the information front. Thanks for everything, Nemico. That really means a lot to me, 777. It means a lot to me to have, repeating viewers like you guys, that tune in night after night, week after week to see these reports and to get this information. And it's important. I took up this gauntlet, so to speak, or threw on the gauntlet. I took up this responsibility of doing these streams because I felt that we need more open source intelligence sources for reporting. I condone other YouTubers that are doing similar types of reporting like this. I think more people should be doing community aggregated reporting, open source intelligence reporting like what we're doing here. It's important that we keep people informed, that we get people informed of what's going on in the world today, because things are starting to exponentially cascade here in the wrong direction, and we got to get things back on track. And to do that, people have to be informed on what's going on so that we can make change. Patty Whack, sorry, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Says very crazy and scary times. Doug Wilson says crazy times. Both of you guys are right. We are in some very interesting times, to say the least. Crazy and scary would be good words for that as well. Kitty Gundy says a lot of food for thought, indeed. Kitty, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Glad to have you on. Speedy Squirrel, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Greg Sparks says very crazy times, but be safe, cover your six, and comms with all your neighbors. We will need each other before you know it. Exactly. Greg, that is probably one of the most needed messages right now that people need to be telling each other is cover your six, watch your neighbors, watch your family, be prepared, guys. It's always better to be prepared, and to have what you need instead of it's better to have what you need instead of need what you have. That's the best way to put it. Keep each other safe, keep yourselves safe out there. Stay vigilant. It's extremely important. Again, as we move into this very volatile stage of human history here, which we are coming into now. Pocket Frog, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Glad to have you. Don't worry, we'll have some frog-related fireworks fun coming to you guys in the next few months here as fireworks season starts to kick off. I'll be posting some fireworks content over on the channel. I like to do some different things every once in a while, so we'll be bringing back some of that stuff as well. I just like making those videos. I like blowing stuff up for you guys. It's good fun. Patty Wax says, thank you, Nemico, for bringing us all together. It's my pleasure to have you guys here. Ookden says, thank you, Nemico. Thank you as well, Ookden. Ryan says, Nemico, how do you see a war between Taiwan Strait going between U.S. slash Taiwan versus China? Great reporting. Love the channel and glad to be here. Ryan, I don't like to, say how I see something going, like carrying out, and give specifics. I don't know who would win. It depends on what weapons are used. It depends on when the war is fought, how it's fought. There's so many different variables here. A lot of us didn't think that Russia was going to do as badly as they did in Ukraine. It's like things don't always go as you see it. Things don't always go the way the intel says they're going to go. You know what I mean? Things change. Things are dynamic. I definitely see a lot of bloodshed if there was to be any type of war in the Taiwan Strait. It all remains to be seen. It's something that I hope we don't have to witness, though. Sydney Pruden, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Always glad to have you tuning in with us. And to all of our Discord members that are tuning in with us tonight, glad you guys are with us. Thanks for stopping by. Cred Spark says chickens, yard gardens, and heirloom seeds. It's all you need. Nate Dog says, should I start digging a hole yet? It might be a good time. At the very least, as Greg said, you could start a garden. That might help. Flash Gordon, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Says, I'm hoping to enjoy SpaceX Saturn V rocket launch on the 17th. Reading Melanie Mitchell's Complexity book in my lap right now. Not worrying about World War III. That's good. Yeah, don't worry about World War III, guys, but be vigilant. As I said, it's good to be prepared. You don't need to be worried. Don't need to be fearful. But I definitely would say there is some substance in being prepared, and staying vigilant. Kelly M, thank you so much for stopping by. Says I look forward to Wednesdays to tune in. Listeners since the beginning, thank you. Thank you so much, Kelly M, for tuning in. As always, it's great to hear from you guys, and it's always good to hear when you guys have been tuning in since the beginning. That's awesome. Special Force Horse, good to see you as well. Says, be safe all. Love from New Zealand. Love to you, Special Force Horse, and everybody that is in New Zealand. Thank you guys for stopping by and being with us tonight, taking some time out of your day to be here and hanging out with us. Flash Gordon says, there's so much exciting science developments, humanity doesn't have time for this BS. Exactly, Flash, and I would love to be covering science-related topics and other different stuff here on this channel, and you're very much right. We don't have time to be dealing with this sort of crap, and we shouldn't be dealing with this sort of crap. The people of Ukraine shouldn't be dealing with this sort of crap. The people of Taiwan shouldn't be having to deal with this. Patty Wax says, get that toilet paper. Oh, God, I hope we don't have another toilet paper crisis. Joe Blowing Wind, again, gifted another 5 community memberships. I'm not sure if that's 15 this evening, but huge welcome to our new members tonight. Speedy Squirrel, Kelly M., Adam Edwards, Kevin Wolf, and Mike Berry. As well as all of the others that joined as a member tonight. We had a ton of people sign up for memberships this evening. Thank you guys so much for the support. Make sure you guys thank Joe Blowing Wind in the live chat. Everybody right now, stop what you're doing and thank Joe in the live chat for gifting those community memberships. That means a lot. Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you to everybody for the support and, again, for being with us tonight. Ookton, thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Ben Franklin's Ramblin' Ghost says, great stuff, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ben, for tuning in tonight. Glad to see you. Pepe says, I'm a gardener. I dig holes every day. That's good. Good on you, Pepe. Again, nothing like having a good garden and growing your own food. Lotus K, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Annette, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead, guys, and I'm going to end off tonight's live chat poll really quick. Again, tonight's poll question was, when do you think China will invade Taiwan? And interestingly enough, 46%, the majority of you said this year, 2023, you think that China will invade Taiwan. 26% said 2024, 15% said 2025, and 11% said 2026 or beyond. So the very interesting results there. So the majority, again, think that that Taiwan will be invaded this year, 2023. I really hope we don't see that, but you never know. That is definitely a possibility. Pocket Frog says, any live cams from Taiwan? Yes, we have an entire Taiwan monitoring stream. Okay, just like we did for the Ukraine war, which we still do from time to time when the conflict heats up over there. We put up a YouTube live stream that's 24/7, which displays data and live stream cams live from the ground in Ukraine, or in this case in Taiwan. And we do occasionally put up the Taiwan stream when there's activity detected around Taiwan. We didn't over the course of these drills over the past few days because I had been busy with work this week. But I plan to start getting that 24/7 stream back up more often for people to watch, and for everybody to again join in, share intel, share reports, watch the cameras, monitor what's going on the ground in Taiwan, again, as well as the war in Ukraine. We have the 2 separate streams there for those. Again, for those that don't know, we do these reports every week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you tune in for these. After they're done being live, we upload them to the YouTube channel. So if you missed a report, you can always go and watch the entire video in its entirety over on the YouTube channel. Or if you don't have time for an entire hour to 2-hour video, we get that. We have a summarized version, which is edited by some of our community members, which is put up we upload it to the YouTube channel. channel every week, usually either the day of this live report or the next day, depending on if I have time to get it uploaded and if our editor is able to get it uploaded, edited in time. But that summary is like a 5 to 10 minute condensed version of these live stream reports, of these weekly intel reports, and it's a great way to get a condensed version of the week's news. Highly recommend going and checking those out over on the YouTube channel. If you haven't already yet, guys, hit the like button. It's the best way to get the algorithm's attention. Hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to support the channel. It's also the best way to get notified when new videos go live. Hit that notification bell. It's the only way you're going to get notified. YouTube does not notify people on our channel. We're in kind of a shadow ban, so to speak, here on the YouTube channel. YouTube doesn't condone, this sort of open source intelligence work. We're talking about these pretty harsh topics here, related to war and stuff like that. A lot of our videos get demonetized. Some of our videos get removed, and again, a lot of our notifications don't even make it out to subscribers. So if you want to make sure you're being notified, hit that notification bell. And even if you've hit that bell and hit the all button, still check back, because sometimes even people that have hit that all button don't get their notifications. Again, it's all about the algorithm. You know what I mean? It's all about the algorithm and how much money YouTube can make off of these videos, not about how important this information is to get out to people. Doompie says, I got notified. That is good. I've had quite a few people messaging me recently to say they've hit the all button, but they still don't get notifications. I had somebody today in live chat, a few people I think mentioned that they had not been getting their notifications. For those that are following along on Twitch tonight, thank you so much for being with us. Mother Saki, to everybody that's over there on Twitch, thank you guys for being with us. If you haven't already, hit that follow button. To those of you that subscribe on Twitch, thank you guys so much for supporting us. For those of you that are over on YouTube that have become a member, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. Joe Blow and Win, thank you so much for the support tonight. Speedy Squirrel, thank you so much for the support. To everybody that supported us tonight, it means a lot. It's the reason we're able to keep bringing you guys this reporting and this news, and it means a lot to me personally. We have a Discord community server. For those that don't know, I know there might be a few of you in the live chat tonight that don't know, but we do have a Discord community server. Everybody's welcome to join. It's free of charge. You can join it in the description below. There's a link to it where you can join. Everybody's welcome over there. It's a great resource for information and up-to-date news and reports on what's going on in the world, as well as a great place to join in on all of the discussions related to the YouTube channel here and amongst other things. I think that about sums it up, guys. Consider supporting the channel. There's links to the merch and other places where you can support us down below. It's always greatly appreciated. I believe that about sums it up for this week's Intel Report for the week of April the 12th, 2023. We'll be back here next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with your weekly Intel Report. We're going to be having a special one next week where we do a deep dive into our open source intelligence tools as well as our community aggregated news from our Situation Room over on the Discord server. For those of you that are part of that community, make sure you're posting that news big time this week because I'm going to be going through it all next week. If you guys got good videos of the Ukraine war, of different, whatever it is, good videos, send the videos over there in the Situation Room. We'll be going through those videos as well. I can't wait to go through all of that great reporting with you guys next week. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching Nemico Network.